Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to try to make this short. I'm going to explain something to y'all. When you buy parts from an aftermarket manufacturer, I don't care if it's 1-to-1 scale, RC scale, 110 scale, 8 scale, whatever. If you expect that part to fit perfect straight out of the package, you're wrong. Those parts, when those aftermarket manufacturers do up their designs and their systems for CNC machining, are basing that off of one of the very first versions of that chassis to be produced. The molds are new, the stamps are new, all that's new. So when they go and they do their measurements to set dimensions, there has been no wear on the molds, no wear on the stamps. Everything is exact. Alright? Bear that in mind because it's going to come back here in just a second. So when they make those parts, they're made to the specification that the very first plastic parts are made from the production molds. Over time, what happens is as those molds and those stamps are used, they wear. And because they wear, dimensions change. Now, there's a certain allowable change in that dimension that can be allowed, depending on the scale. For example, at 1/8 scale, I'm going to use the suspension arms as an example because it's an easy one to remember. That tolerance is 0.010. Anything smaller than 0.010 combined at both ends of the suspension arm on the pin, 0.05 and 0.05, or excuse me, 0.005 and 0.005, or any combination thereof, as long as it adds up to 0.010, you're within tolerance. Anything outside of that, you're outside of tolerance. And either they have to adjust the tolerance on the production line, or you do. And then they have to fix the mold. So, what happens is if you got one of the very first Baja Ray V1s ever produced, the Vidavon frickin' housing is going to fit to the plastic parts perfect. You're not going to have to do a thing. If you have the 20,000th Baja Ray that came off the production line, you're going to have to do some adjustment because the dimensions have changed just enough to cause a fitment issue, a minor fitment issue. And so then what you have to do is something that's called in 1-to-1 scale, it's called fettling. And fettling is basically fit and finish, the final fit and finish of a part. The final tuning of suspension line, the final torquing of bolts. You go through it and you make sure everything's exactly right. Alright? Now, when you start mixing parts from other manufacturers who allow different tolerances, like Hot Racing, GPM, RC 4-wheel drive, whatever you can think of, even the no-names off of Amazon, they allow different tolerance levels in the parts they make. When you start mixing and matching those parts, you're going to run into conflicts. Again, you're going to have to adjust the fit. How you do that? Small files, sanding blocks, pieces of granite that have been smoothed to make a decking stone, whatever the case may be, or how you want to do it or works best is how you do it. Okay? Even in parts from the same manufacturer that are processed on different machines, the variances are going to be different. And so to get that perfect fit, you're going to have to make adjustments. One machine might be running so well that it can go within a 0.0001 of a specification, while the machine sitting right next to it can only achieve a 0.0005. at its best. Okay? Because variances go all the way through the process, from the making of the machine to the making of the part. And when you're talking stuff as small as RC parts, at 1/10 scale, 1/8 scale, 1/7 scale, 1/4 scale, at a 1/14 scale, those parts are tiny in comparison to full scale. The walls of those parts are very thin compared to full scale. And if a full scale part can be warped by the heat of the machining process, what do you think a small scale, very thin walled, very tiny part would do in the machining process? It's going to warp. I don't care how much coolant you flush onto that part out of the machine to try to keep it cool, there is going to be some warpage. Especially at the speed these things are made. If you've ever pulled a part straight out of a CNC machine, you don't want to grab it with your bare hands unless it's set for a little bit. Because they're warm. Even if you have dumped 200 gallons of coolant over it during the machining process, they're warm. Those tools that those machines use will glow red hot, depending on the material they're machining, with coolant being flushed on them. So on an RC scale component that's aluminum alloy, where the thickness of the part is a fraction of an inch, the heat is going to change the shape of the metal. You're going to have to make adjustments. So to sit there and say that Vitovon doesn't make parts that fit, they make parts that fit. The process themselves alters the shape of the part in a small amount. It is up to you, the end user, to adjust the fitment to your particular application based on the parts you've already installed, based on what you're wanting that part to do. If you're wanting more suspension travel, whatever the case may be, it's up to you. So to say Vitovon makes crappy parts because it didn't fit your Rift or your Baja Ray, that's your fault, not Vitovon's. Have a nice day.